Today at 6 p.m. Eastern over on Jaguar Gator 8, a new college football video drops. In this video, we talk about the time in 1992 that Oklahoma State scheduled two opponents for the same day. Click the card in the upper right corner to watch. And now, on with our feature presentation. This man right here is none other than Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Todd Blackledge. When people think of the first round of the 1983 NFL Draft and the 6 quarterbacks that were chosen, they think of that class incredibly fondly, and as a class where everyone experienced some success to varying degrees. Obviously, the Denver Broncos, when they traded for John Elway, won 2 Super Bowls and got a Hall of Famer. The Miami Dolphins got Dan Marino, who made the Hall of Fame, led Miami to the Super Bowl, and set passing records galore, putting up numbers that were almost unheard of. The Buffalo Bills got Jim Kelly, who made the Hall of Fame and led Buffalo to 4 straight Super Bowls, an NFL record. The New England Patriots got Tony Eason, who, while admittedly not great, did guide the Pats to their first Super Bowl in franchise history, thanks to a 3-touchdown, no-interception performance against the Miami Dolphins in their stunning upset win in the 1985 AFC Championship. And the New York Jets got Ken O'Brien, who made 2 Pro Bowls and was a solid quarterback, even if he wasn't Dan Marino. Really, everyone that took a quarterback in the 1983 NFL Draft in the first round won in some way. That is, everyone except for the Chiefs with Todd Blackledge. I think it's safe to say that Blackledge is one of the biggest busts in the history of the Chiefs franchise, and he might be number 1 considering the magnitude of the position. The man did just about nothing as a starting quarterback. Not once did he ever start more than half of the games in a season. He finished his career with 29 touchdowns and 38 interceptions, while completing just 48% of his passes. And in 1985, there were 45 quarterbacks to start at least 2 games. Of those 45, Blackledge ranked 45th in passer rating, with a rating of just 50.3, thanks to 6 touchdowns and 14 interceptions, or a touchdown-to-interception ratio that was worse than 1-2. Long story short, Blackledge was a really bad quarterback, and if the main reason that the Chiefs traded for nothing but 49ers backups in the 1990s to play under center for them was because in the 1980s, Blackledge scared them off of ever drafting another quarterback again, I honestly wouldn't blame them. However, despite all of that, Blackledge did manage to make it to 1 playoff game. Because in 1986, he guided, and I use the word guided extremely loosely, the Chiefs to their first postseason appearance since the 1971 season. After 15 long years, and after a decade and a half of waiting, the Chiefs were back in the playoffs. As for how this playoff game turned out, well, it was a disaster. In fact, it was so much of a disaster that it caused an ugly rift between he and his wide receivers, mainly Stephone Paige, who put his quarterback on blast after the game, saying essentially that the reason that the team got eliminated was all because of him. You rarely see a player do that after a loss, let alone a playoff loss, where they call their quarterback out for being terrible. But that's the ugly drama and the controversy that we're dealing with here today. Because this is the story behind what might just be the ugliest drama in the history of the wildcard round of the NFL playoffs. Before I talk about the incident in question and why exactly the drama occurred, we need some context to understand the importance of this game, as well as the receiver in question that was so furious with his quarterback. It's December 28th, 1986. It's the wildcard round of the playoffs, and we have a battle on our hands over a giant stadium between the New York Jets and the Kansas City Chiefs. For the Chiefs, as mentioned before, this game was absolutely huge, not just because it was the playoffs, and every game in the playoffs is a big deal, but because this was the first time since the 1971 divisional round, in their iconic 27-24 double overtime affair against the Miami Dolphins on Christmas Day, that they were playing a playoff game. As a side note, to learn more about that game, click the card in the upper right corner. After winning Super Bowl IV, which was the last game played in the history of professional football before the AFL-NFL merger, they had not won a playoff game since. So a win here to advance to the divisional round for a date with the Cleveland Browns would be absolutely monumental for this franchise, which had fallen on some hard times in the post-Hank Stram and Len Dawson years. And while there were many reasons for the success of the Chiefs in 1986, mainly their incredible special teams play, where thanks in part to special teams coordinator Frank Ans, who you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner, they were a block punt machine and assembled arguably the greatest special teams unit of all time. One of the main reasons was this man right here, Stephone Paige. As badly as the Chiefs whiffed with their first round pick in the 1983 NFL Draft, they found an absolute gem that year in undrafted free agency with the Cal State University wideout. After the 1985 season, where he ended the year with a 309-yard, 2-touchdown game and a 38-34 win over the San Diego Chargers, setting the NFL record at the time for most receiving yards in a game, and where he led the league with 21.9 yards per reception, becoming the first player in Chiefs history to lead the NFL in that category, and just the second Chiefs player to lead his league in that category when Otis Taylor led the AFL in 1966, he picked up right where he left off. Because in 1986, Stephone Paige was an absolutely dynamic playmaker who was the main reason why the Chiefs offense, which ranked dead last in the NFL in total yardage, had any pulse whatsoever. Paige was the top receiver on the team, leading the way with a team-high 52 receptions for a team-high 829 yards and a team-high 11 touchdowns. He won the team triple crown at wide receiver. For some perspective on just how important Paige was to this team, the next closest player in touchdowns on the team was running back Jeff Smith, who had 6. Paige had nearly double the number of touchdowns that second place had. On the season, the Chiefs had 23 passing touchdowns. Paige caught 11 of them, meaning that he had roughly half of the team's scores on passing plays in the end zone. On top of that, the next closest player in receiving touchdowns was Carlos Carson, who had 4, meaning that Paige had nearly triple the number of receiving touchdowns that second place had. He set a career high in receptions and receiving touchdowns, and finished the season 3rd in the entire NFL in receiving touchdowns, only behind Wesley Walker of the New York Jets, who had 12, and Jerry Rice of the San Francisco 49ers, who had 15. Paige meant just about everything to this team offensively, as if they had the ball and were going to find the end zone, there was a very good chance that it was going to be because of some sort of explosive play that Paige would make. The game plan for the Chiefs going into this wildcard game against the Jets, who had the worst pass defense in the league when it came to yards allowed and touchdowns allowed, should have been simple. Find a way to get Paige the ball, no matter what. If you can put the ball in Paige's hands, you've got a great shot to win this one. However, as you probably guessed, that did not happen. In fact, for the first time all season, and for the only time from Week 11 of the 1985 season until 1991, in a streak that otherwise spanned a team record 83 games, Stephone Paige was held without a catch. And the main reason why? His quarterback, Todd Blackledge, was absolutely terrible. Thurl Ravenscroft would say that the 3 words that best describe Blackledge on this day were as follows, and I quote, "Stink, stank, stunk." It was that bad. When all was said and done, the Jets prevailed quite easily, as outside of a touchdown on the opening drive, the Chiefs got nothing going offensively whatsoever, as the final 9 points were scored on special teams with a block punt touchdown and an intentional safety. And while you can definitely point to a ton of reasons why the Chiefs lost this game and got eliminated from their first playoff appearance in a decade and a half in rather humiliating fashion, perhaps the main one is what you've been watching from their starting quarterback, 4th-year man Todd Blackledge. Because on this day, his performance was ugly with a capital U. It's funny, because it didn't start off that way. While he wasn't doing anything spectacular or remarkable by any means, making a lot of easy and simple throws, he was keeping the game in front of him to start off, as through his first 7 passing attempts, he was 6 for 7 with 54 yards. But very quickly, the wheels on the bus came falling off. because everything after that was nothing short of terrible. When all was said and done, before he got benched after 3 quarters for Bill Kenny, he went 12 for 21 with 80 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 2 sacks, and a passer rating of 26, which is worse than if he did nothing but spike the ball into the ground on every single play. One of those picks, which really blew the game open, came on the opening play of the second half, when Kevin McArthur jumped in front of a pass and returned it 21 yards to the house to give the Jets what felt like an insurmountable 28-6 lead. Remember that back then, that was a 4-possession game. And while his passer rating of 26 is bad, remember that he started off 6 for 7, meaning that after his first 7 passing attempts, as we got more into the rhythm and the flow of the game, he went 6 for 14 with 26 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, which not only means that he averaged less than 2 yards per passing play, but means that over that stretch, he achieved a passer rating of 10.7. You're not winning any games, and you're not going to do anything offensively when your starting quarterback is putting up those kinds of numbers. But perhaps the biggest play, and the catalyst for the drama we're going to get into in just a few seconds, was this play right here. It's a big third down near midfield in the third quarter, with the Chiefs down 28-6, and Blackledge throws down the left sideline to Carlos Carson. What he's looking at, seeing as Carson is blanketed, I have no clue, but the pass results in an easy interception, courtesy of Russell Carter. However, while this might look like your typical run-of-the-mill interception from that angle, look at it from up above and high in the sky. See the middle of the field? That's Stephone Paige running a post pattern, and he is wide open. It literally does not get any more open than that. No one is even in the same zip code as Paige. That's a walk-in touchdown if Blackledge just looks and does what he's supposed to do on the play. Instead, it's a pick, and it's pretty much game over. And after the game, while the Chiefs were obviously upset and frustrated that their season came to such an abrupt and disappointing end, perhaps no one was more frustrated than Stephone Paige, who I can't even show highlights of from this game because he literally did not catch a pass. The man who ended the 1985 season with the all-time record in a single game for receiving yards, this year, against the worst pass defense in football, was held without a catch. But obviously, it wasn't his fault. He was getting open. Heck, we saw that post pattern where he had what would have been one of the easiest touchdowns of his career. We saw throws during the game where Blackledge just missed him. And after the game, Paige flat out said that the reason that his team lost the game was because his quarterback was absolutely terrible. He was putting Blackledge on blast for the early elimination, and for his unusual goose egg in the reception column. As Paige said, I was running my routes to get open. I was running my routes to win, to make something happen. But not a whole lot happened. For some reason or another, I just couldn't get the ball. It was frustrating. Said Paige on the missed touchdown on the post pattern, it was 6 points. It was at least 45 yards. It was a big play, a touchdown. Blackledge reads the defense and has the option of coming to me or the other guy. He chose the other guy. When I went back to the sidelines, I told Coach, it was 6. He knew it. Everyone knew it. He told Todd, it was wide open. And if that wasn't enough, Paige said on his quiet day, I went out in the second half thinking it was going to be a better half. I felt I was going to get whatever came my way, but not a whole lot came my way. Paige then continued to bash Blackledge for not looking his way and for missing him time after time throughout the game, saying, I'm not going to talk bad about their corners, but our wideouts didn't get to challenge them. We didn't get a chance to go for that long one, the deep one. From the first snap, I said to myself, I can beat this guy, but I never got a chance to challenge them. I really thought we should challenge them outside because they couldn't cover us. I ran some routes that I know they couldn't cover. I was wide open on some plays, but the ball just didn't get there. And Paige wasn't the only one frustrated, As even cornerback Albert Lewis said on Paige's no-catch game thanks to Blackledge's awfulness, Stephone is really too good a receiver to have that happen to him. You can't say it's his fault. It wasn't like he was shut out by one of the best defenses or best secondaries in the league. He's just too good a receiver to ever go without catching a pass. Translation from all of this? Our quarterback was absolutely garbage, has the vision of a blind 90-year-old, and has the decision-making skills of a teenager who has a large group of friends that he wants to impress, and finds out that he's got the house to himself for the entire weekend. Todd Blackledge never played in another playoff game again, and for that matter, he wouldn't start another game for the Chiefs after the strike in 1987. Of the quarterbacks drafted in the first round of the 1983 NFL Draft, he's the only one to never make multiple playoff starts. And after this performance, which was a very good metaphor for his entire career, it's not hard to see why. Usually, breaking a 15-year playoff drought is cause for celebration and reflection, even when the season finally ends. But not here. Because for the 1986 Chiefs, they didn't just break a drought. They broke any and all chemistry between their starting quarterback and their star receiver, as they ended the season on just about the ugliest note possible for a playoff team. Get your official Jaguar Gator 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, and subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at Jaguar Gator 9. To see college football videos, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.